On calm, starry nights, there are sounds of certain steam engines pulling trains, one of which is the Flying Kipper. This goods train contains vans filled with fish that are delivered to the top station and taken to the mainland. The Fat Controller, also known as Sir Topham Hatt, had decided to give Henry the task of pulling the Kipper, as he was good with trucks as well as coaches. Despite his steaming problems, Henry still manages to pull the train, even if he was off schedule and the winter season proved to be bothersome. He thinks his job is very important. Some of the other engines weren't so fond of the idea, however.
Phew, the Flying Kipper they call it. Oh, well, I certainly wouldn't want to be near a smelly fish train. Why is it even a goods train in the first place?
Because, Gordon, the fishes in the vans are shipped off to the mainland and are sold in fish markets for people to buy and eat. Henry told me how it worked.
Huh. Well, it seems like Henry's taught you a thing or two about fish, little Thomas. Not surprised.
Ha! He should know by now, Gordon. He had fishes in his boiler one time. Ha!
Oh, I want to fish.
Oh, shut up. It isn't funny. That wasn't my fault after all.
But Gordon and James just ignored Thomas as they both went on with their work. Meanwhile, Edward was getting ready to leave with some tankers when Henry pulled into the station, looking miserable as he started coughing and wheezing loudly. Edward was concerned.
Goodness me, Henry. Are you alright? You don't look very well.
Feeling stuffed up as usual. I'm fine, really. Driver says I'll be as right as rain in a few hours. After all, I have to get ready tonight for the Flying Kipper. I wouldn't want to be late.
Alright, if you're positively sure. But I suggest talking to Sir Topham Hatt about it. He might know what to do.
No need, little Edward. I'm perfectly fine, I'm certain. Must be off now. Goodbye.
Edward still felt worried for Henry as he watched him leave, but decided to leave it until later. The harbour is a busy place on the railway. Ships and boats come and go, trains load and unload, and some of the engines work there to organise everything in its place, as Percy was doing that night. As there wasn't another shunter to help in the yard, Percy had to do the work alone, but was struggling.
No, Percy, those trucks are for another engine. Put them in the siding over there.
Oh, sorry, sir. Right away, sir.
Good. Now grab those vans and shut them onto Henry's train.
Oof.
Gently. You won't want there to be any damage to the vans, Percy. They're very important. Alright, you've done enough for tonight. Run along now and get a good rest.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Percy backed into his berth, where he saw Gordon and James laughing at Thomas.
You two are still going on about it? Give it a rest for once.
Haha, we'll give it a rest until you stop catching fish. I don't think your side tanks can take a lot of them.
Alright, that's quite enough out of you three. Now, Henry is about to leave for the Flying Kipper. I suggest we act maturely as he chuffs away.
James and Gordon glanced at each other, for they knew what Edward meant. Henry slowly puffed out of the shed, and as he went onto the turntable, he set off to collect his train.
You know, Thomas, if Henry ever broke down or was greatly ill, you could pull the Flying Kipper.
Rubbish! I don't ever want to associate myself with fish again, especially a train of them.
Thomas moved back further into his shed, but Gordon and James just chuckled quietly. Henry, meanwhile, was getting ready to pull the train. It was a cold night, but his fire kept him warm and he had an easy grip on the rails. Once everything was ready, the whistle blew, Henry's wheels turned, his boilers strained, and he pulled the vans out of the harbour.
Come along, no fuss, no fuss.
Henry was making good time. As stations flashed by, the vans clattered along the rails, and the winds blew past the big green engine. Everything seemed to be going well, until Gordon's Hill came into view.
Puff hard, Henry. We'll make it.
Come on.
Henry struggled and strained, but was suddenly feeling ill again. He coughed and slipped on the hill.
Oh no, we're going back. I can't do it.
And he was right. He grew weak and reversed all the way back to the bottom of the hill. Poor Henry felt tired. He wouldn't be taking the Flying Kipper tonight. Henry was put on a siding to rest, while another engine arrived to take the train for him.
What a pathetic engine!
The next morning, Henry returned to the sheds. The engines were surprised to see him back so soon.
Well, this has to be the earliest you've been back. You must have gone so quickly that you got lots of sleep.
I didn't make it. Another engine took it from me after I started feeling ill on Gordon's Hill.
You see, Angry, this is why I don't bother taking goods. The things they can do with big strong engines like us.
Then, Sir Topham Hatt arrived.
Henry, I heard about what happened last night, and I think it's best you stay in the sheds until you get better. There's another load of fish arriving tonight, but with you being ill, I have to make changes and get another engine. Now, who should take the Flying Kipper?
Gordon and James looked away. They didn't dare volunteer to take smelly fish vans. Luckily for them, they didn't have to say anything. Someone had already spoken up.
I'll take the train for him, sir.
I'll help you too. You can't pull those vans all by yourself, Thomas.
Ha! Would you look at that? The little tank engine is trying to conquer his fear of the fish. What a grand idea. Ha ha!
Silence! Now, Thomas and Edward, due to the schedule, I think you two taking the Kipper won't be an issue. However, since it will become a struggle, we'll get another engine to take it for you once you reach Wellsworth. Now, Percy, you shall go and shunt the vans before tonight, then take Annie and Clarabelle. James will help with Henry's passengers, and once the Flying Kipper is ready, Thomas and Edward will take the train.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Good luck, you two.
You'll need it, haha.
I'll show you.
But secretly, Thomas was worried about what he had got himself into. That night, the Flying Kipper was ready. The men had loaded crates of fish into the vans, and the two engines puffed into the harbour. Edward buffered up first, with Thomas at the front.
Remember what Sir Tom Hatt said, Thomas? We'll make our way to Wellsworth, and someone else will pull the train. So let's do the best we can.
I'm sure we'll do it without the help of another engine. We mustn't disappoint Henry after all.
With a blow of the guard's whistle, the blue engines heaved and hauled the heavy vans away. It didn't take long for the engines to get tired as they passed by several stations. Edward panted while Thomas struggled on. They soon reached Wellsworth and stopped for a quick drink and a rest. The station master walked up to them with urgent news.
Unfortunately, we're having trouble finding another engine available tonight to come and take the Kipper. So you'll have to make the journey all the way to Vickerstown and wait for the other engine.
The engines were shocked.
But me and Thomas can't reach that far with a train this heavy. We won't be able to get up the hill.
No, Edward. I'm sure we'll manage. Henry's train needs to be delivered on time, and it'll prove those big engines wrong. I hope.
Thomas and Edward struggled up the hill. They pulled and they tugged. Thomas started feeling tired halfway up, but he didn't give up. He was determined to get the train to the top station.
Pull hard, we'll do it. Pull hard, we'll do it.
The top grew nearer and nearer. And at last, the engines reached the top. They were most relieved.
We've done it, Edward. We've done it.
Well done. Easy down the hill now. The rest of the way will be easier.
Thomas and Edward puffed down the line with the Flying Kipper. Stations flew by, and the wind sped through their funnels. They were having a better time making their grand effort. All the same, they were glad when Vicarstown came into view. They arrived just in time. They were soon uncoupled, and an engine arrived to take the vans to the mainland. Both engines were tired, but proud, and soon went to get a drink. Once they were done, they puffed home to the sheds.
Wait until Gordon and James hear about our time with the Flying Kipper.
The important thing is that we delivered it. And you were right. We didn't disappoint Henry at all. For now, I just need lots of sleep.
The engines returned, and Thomas told Henry the news. He was certainly happy to hear it.
Thank you, Thomas. You and Edward were big help. I'll be happily taking it again. I think I'm starting to feel...
But Thomas, along with Edward, had already fallen asleep. Gordon and James remained silent, as they knew that the engines did a good job.
Oh, never mind then.
You know, Gordon, and maybe you as well, James, you should take the Flying Kipper. It seems to be a wonderful train.
Nonsense.
Pa, you must be as ill as Henry from those ideas in your smoke box.